recorded. I don't know if you see that on screen now, probably. Yeah, because that would otherwise in Europe be a kind of a privacy violation. So you can log out. You can log out now if you were not comfortable being recorded. If you have questions, you can use the chat. Some of you already found it, and we can also give you the stage, but that needs to happen with, I think, with a click of a button from my side. And if you can switch 2 slides, Doug, because really important. And one more.
Fine, there we go. One more.
Yeah, we can see fine. One more. Yeah.
There we go.
Because Salesforce makes us show you this slide every time. It's a thank you slide. And I'd like to thank you. You have to then be aware that you have to thank people. And so I would like to thank you for joining us, and thank you for sticking around with us during these COVID times, and choosing for this format instead of the face-to-face gatherings we usually have with real foods and real beers and a lot of gezelligheid, which I cannot translate. And also for tonight, I'd like to ask you to participate with that chat, and we'll also put you on stage if you want, with questions and challenges and your own experiences, because everyone solves this problem in a different way. And we'd like to learn also from you. We're going to present some things, but we want to hear from you as well. So Ralph thinks he's funny with the forward-looking statement. I am going to read that, but I'm doing that after the meeting. So stick around, and then we'll have another quarter of an hour to read that statement. Okay, that's it for me, Doug. I'd like to give the stage to you.
Sounds great. So as Michiel mentioned, we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the analytics and marketing cloud, right? So a lot of the challenges that all of us have been facing, and I assume we'll probably be facing for the foreseeable future, are really a lot of things around what we can do to actually understand in an effective way if the marketing analytics or the marketing activities that we're taking part in are actually working. And as part of that, as Michiel mentioned, we have a couple of people here. So myself speaking as well. We have Martijn and we have Kusha. So we're just going to go through a couple of those things. You'll be able to see them on stage, talking, chatting throughout the presentation. We wanted to go through a couple of things that really we see on the day-to-day basis. From our lives in the consulting side of things, when we're talking about marketing cloud analytics or marketing analytics, and some of the challenges that are definitely faced by us within that area. So to kind of go through, we wanted to start off actually, before we do that, just from a release overview standpoint. I think that's kind of important because we haven't had the chance to do that in one of our previous meetings. And so we kind of just want to go through, these are really the highlights that I've really picked out from the discussions that we've done. So that's really going through, first of all, finally transactional send has a UI. So the transactional API now has a UI for that. So that's really great to see. For those of you that have been using the web analytics and everything like this with personalization from product recommendations in Einstein, if you've got that in place, the abandoned cart browse wish list is now able to be done without the involvement of professional services. The individual link details now use SOAP API. That doesn't matter if you haven't worried about it, but if you have hit it before, you're going to be happy about that because the bulk API limits quite often get hit. One of the other things is granular journey permissions, which is really great to be able to separate certain permissions around whether you can create or start journeys. It's certainly something I've seen a lot of clients request because they don't want to have the same person starting a journey as the one defining it. They want to have this kind of approval process, and this kind of allows that. Lastly, one of the coolest things that I've actually been using this quite a bit is inside a journey now. If you click on the little health icon, you can actually look for contacts as part of Marketing Cloud. as part of the journey to find out exactly where the person is in that journey. And so I think that's a really nice little feature, which really gives the added value for understanding where that person is in the journey, as well as kind of those debugging things and going, why did this person go down this path? So definitely just some quick highlights there. And a small update that the October release will be coming out. The release notes should be there in a couple of weeks. The first release, the first rollout will be to the first instances on the 17th of October. And a reminder for all of you which have been drinking the Salesforce Kool-Aid, the 360 audiences will officially GA on the 20th of October. No one knows how much it's going to cost yet. It's been something I'm trying to get out of all the account executives, but so far they have yet to give me a clear answer. But once they do, certainly will be great to have a discussion on that, and I think that's definitely going to be one of our upcoming topics, given the whole hype around the CDP that Salesforce is building or has been building. It's definitely going to be a big topic around amongst the consulting world as well as clients. To go forward, let's get a little bit analytical. So we kind of wanted to start off with a bit of a quiz, and it's a very simple one. You can drop into menti.com and pop in this code here, or if you're more technical, you're welcome to use the QR code, which will do exactly the same thing. Videsh is giving me shit in the background, so it's great to see. So if you do that there, basically the question we have here is which analytics tools do you use? It'd be great to see kind of some feedback. Just to give us some feedback. Martin, I can see that you maybe can't see the screen. Adrian as well. It should be shared. QR code. Okay, excellent. Thanks, Martin. So we left this one a bit open choice. So definitely be great to see some feedback here. That's a lot of things. I'm happy to see Excel, guys. Very, very happy to see Excel on that one. It's my favorite tool. It's frustrating, but it's my favorite tool. Cool. So I think we've got quite a big overview here. I'm honestly a little bit surprised among this group that Power BI is so prevalent, but it tells us a big story around what the reality is of using of analytics. That we do see a lot of people working in Power BI. I myself have 2 clients which use it as their main analytics tool, so it's great to see. I love the new normal here. And I love that I'm being told that as a buzzword for our drinking game this evening, I have to take a sip. So thanks, Videsh. Thanks. So going into this topic, there's a lot of different choice there in those platforms. I think that's really great to see that there is this different selections. I do think that Excel is really playing an important role in the marketing space, especially for those ad hoc things. Even the best of us, when they've got a lot of those tools to be able to do really amazing kind of dashboard segmentation, all that kind of stuff to really understand your audiences and how they're responding, you're still going to see some need for a tool like Excel to be able to extract certain activities. So I think that's really great to see that people are kind of aware of that. But the reality is that there are always those other analytics tools, and it's never, even in the world of Salesforce or even connected anyway to Salesforce, it's never always just Salesforce products. And I think that's really important to remember, especially we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So kind of going forward, we're all used to a marketing cloud, right? So the idea, especially of this group, is really talking about marketing cloud analytics. And we just wanted to start off with where are we on the basics, right? So what you'll see is that most people will be familiar with reports, and Salesforce really promotes that as, yeah, you can do all your analytics for marketing. There's reports in Marketing Cloud, no problems. I think safely every single person who's ever used Marketing Cloud reports can say they are not good enough to use for your day-to-day business. And that's unfortunate, but it is a reality that we deal with. And so we often end up going up that chain from reports to other features. One of those kind of, let's say, special types of reports, Adrian, I don't, I'm going to try sharing a grant again, but I think it should be fine at the moment. Michiel, you can see stuff or... Good now. Okay.
If I
Awesome.
can do anything for Adrian, I don't know. Not yet.
Okay, cool.
No, I can just permanently remove him from the event. That's not an option, I think. No, maybe switch browsers, Adrian. Maybe that could be a thing. I will talk with you on a private channel, Adrian, and maybe that's
sure. Okay, cool. So when we're talking this kind of analytics here, we're going into the things like discovery. So for those of us working in the consulting world, that's often the start of your next engagement. When we're talking Marketing Cloud, that is actually a custom tool, which from memory is actually working on something from IBM. It looks completely different to the rest of Marketing Cloud, and it's the data there is only updated once per day. You'll see there's some automations to actually push that data there. And discovery is a bit more flexible. It's going into those kind of things that you want to be able to do where you want to really select certain filters and bring in certain fields to be able to pull a report together. Which really improves that flexibility, but it's still restricted to the data that you get from Marketing Cloud. And as we all know, that data is really helpful to understand, okay, what was clicked, what was opened, but it doesn't have the full breadth and the ability to understand the more of the context stuff. Not least of which is a problem is that it only supports email metrics. So there's no data there from SMS or push journeys or anything else like that. And as we kind of use all those features, we really need to be able to understand them. That kind of drives us to end up in two other factors, which either extracts. So most of us are familiar with the tracking extract from the emailing or from the SMS or push extracts, or alternatively data views using SQL to be able to really pull out that data, put it into data extensions, and kind of do some SQL queries to either aggregate that data directly in Marketing Cloud or to be able to pull out that raw data and be able to use it in things like Excel or to be able to push into other systems. So I think the reality is that for most of us, especially on the smaller end of the businesses, the smaller clients that I've worked with, those extracts and those data views are still the thing that they're using for doing most of their marketing intelligence, marketing analytics. It is really a pity that we can't do something more. And I certainly, for those of you that were involved in the partner sessions in the last week with regards to marketing, you will have heard that actually discovery and reports is likely going to be replaced by something from Datorama. So that's kind of the roadmap plan that you'll be able to get that as part of your Marketing Cloud instance. So lovely positive part there. But when that happens, it's really up for discussion. So knowing what we've got there, you've got all these kind of tools. The question is, now going across, I'm just going to ask another one, is looking at who's the main consumer of marketing analytics at your company. So if you've still got Mentimeter open, then grab that. Otherwise, jump in here to menti.com. So if the person's brave enough, whoever answered other, I'm curious what the other is. I've got to be honest. I tried to think of all the roles that we usually see marketing analytics used for. I'm not sure if you'd want to write in exactly what person is using that data, if not one of the marketing teams. Nope. Okay. Alrighty, so I think, for those of us that are working in this area as well, again, I think we really are aware that this is not a surprising representation, right? The focus is often really the marketing managers, the people that are actively responsible for the marketing results, or more often than not, campaign managers. So the ability to say, yeah, my campaign was successful, my segment was correct, to maybe act on that in future, not just use it as a kind of a retrospective and be able to understand what happened, but rather what can I do and what can I help to improve. Certainly, I think some of the tools we're going to talk about, one of the tools we're going to talk about, is really focused more at this end of the CMO. So for the larger organizations, that may be a CMO. For smaller, it might be labeled as marketing manager. But that really is the Datarama discussion, and I think we're going to go through a bit of that a bit later. You know what the other is? Business paying for marketing. Okay. I don't understand. Geert, do you want to give us an explanation? I'm not sure if you're able to open up the chat for you.
Oh, do I need to? Geert. Okay. Presenter mode on. Okay, Geert, you can open the chat.
Nope.
We have more Geerts than one. Ah, yeah, there's Geert. Okay. Geert, you can unmute yourself and unvideo yourself, and then.
All right. Yeah. Finally. So in my business, which is likely not always the most structured business, especially when it comes about marketing, we have many key stakeholders who think that they have experience or knowledge about marketing, and they do at times ask for marketing stats, not understanding them, but they do consume that kind of data and like to get their daily updates.
Actually doing with those kind of things? Is it just to know?
Just to know and to kind of use in meetings when they talk about how content or not content they are with the campaigns and with the results, or to support their opinions on how things should be done differently.
Yeah, so I think it aligns very well with the kind of heading that we have, right? So lies, damned lies, statistics. It's all a matter of what you want to interpret out of these things that can make it very useful or very not useful.
Agreed.
Cheers. So kind of bringing that to an end, we have Martijn here, and Martijn has a quick kind of walkthrough. We're just going to go through really what from his side, talking about the focus on business value, right? So Martijn, do you want to take the stage?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Doug. Yeah, so the thing I'd like to talk about is it's good that we do statistics, that we do analytics, but I think it should eventually do something specific for your organization. That is, it should supply value. Just churning out reports just because we can doesn't seem to be the right way to do. So what should the analytics do for you? It should allow you to make better decisions. Hopefully it allows you to make those decisions faster. And in the world where I live in, we like to do that by seeing and understanding the data. That's also one of the taglines of Tableau. And in order to look at your data, you need to know what your KPIs are. Right? I'm assuming everybody knows what a KPI is, and probably also have heard from SMART. But I think if you look at the different roles that you just saw earlier on the Mentimeter overview, that each of those different roles has a different decision to make. So a CMO or a CEO will likely need to have different KPIs or a rolled up KPI to a higher level than maybe a campaign manager who needs to decide, okay, I'm going to update or pause this campaign or adjust the target audience or maybe change the messaging there. So they will each look at different KPIs, but ultimately rolling up to obviously that same goal of making the company better. So why have I put in this slide to make them smarter? Is that if you have a KPI, it's not like a once time look and you're okay. So the E after SMART for me stands for evaluate, and the R stands for re-evaluate. So it should be a circle. So you look at your data, you make adjustments, you look at your data again, make some more adjustments until you've perfected, well, hopefully you will perfect your campaigns eventually to get those best results.
And I mean, when we're talking about these, what are the challenges you see for discussing that with businesses? Is that something that's often an easy thing to do, or is that quite a time-consuming part of your role?
It's quite time-consuming, and it's a different type of role than most of our consultants are used to. So we have a lot of developers, so that they're really great at building the dashboards and the technical stuff and getting to those insights based on the analysis they do. But defining those KPIs is more like an interview work. It's kind of like being a journalist, talking to the stakeholders, understanding what the business is and what drives the business and what type of decisions need to be made to be able to move it forward. So this isn't even a technical role. It's really more a consulting role, a business consulting role to define those KPIs. And then how you eventually technically implement them is more something a developer does. But it can definitely be quite time consuming.
And from your experience, if you had to put a number on it, how many companies do you think are realistically setting these kind of goals when they're actually doing their dashboards, their analytics?
10% maybe that do it right, and the rest were just throwing out reports, looking at things that they think might have an impact, but they're not aligned with the company strategy or the company goals. So it's not a high percentage that actually does this properly. It is growing, but it's not a fast growth, I must say.
Let's see. I mean, it's a challenge that I think a lot of us are facing, so definitely the case. Looking forward there. Thanks very much. We'll have a quick other poll, which we're looking at, guys. So looking at kind of the next step here, we've talked a little bit about kind of the business side of things. Question for us is really then saying the next steps. I mean, how are we getting Marketing Cloud data into those analytics tools? So maybe we've set the KPIs and we're trying to really achieve something now. And what are we trying to? How are we getting that really into those tools? What are your guys from the audience? What is your experience with those? What are those opportunities that you have to extract the data from Marketing Cloud? You should have the ability to click multiple ones here.
No, I can only click one.
You can only click one? I'll go and change that then. Sorry, guys. Multiple options. There we go. I missed it. Sorry, guys. Yes, you can. Oh. I'm sad about that. Someone can put multiple answers in. Okay, Videsh is the case. He's not allowed to do it.
I clicked too.
I mean, I'm still relatively happy with that kind of answer. To be honest, I think for those of you that are used to this, realistically, manual extracts is often the case that we're seeing, and I think that is a challenge with a lot of companies. And also the we don't is something I threw in there, to be honest, last minute. It's something I realized today, that actually we're dealing with it with a new client, and we are really seeing that sometimes they're not actually doing it at all. And so I think that's one of the bigger challenges that we do face along those discussions with clients. Trying to understand why they're not doing it or what the value is. And then once we've tried to figured out those KPIs, like Martijn was mentioning, what are we able to do to get out of it? How can we get it out? Maybe that initially is a manual extract, but how do we step past that so that it isn't having that manual work involved? I'm sure a lot of us are working in situations whereby part of our daily job is doing those extracts for companies. And it's certainly something that I really want to have my team move away from, to be actually having a much more valuable discussion in that consulting space, be able to sit down and build those more or less automated so that they're able to do really more exciting things with their time, rather than doing that manual work to get the extracts. Anyone, maybe Martijn, Michiel, do you have any thoughts on those ones? Kusha as well?
Yeah, maybe on the other option, because, and I didn't click that, but I just realized we have the Marketing Cloud connector set up with Service Cloud, and that syncs a lot of the data back to Service Cloud. And we have some reporting on campaigns and on other metrics we do there. So we may decide more on data and reports in the Service Cloud than actual Marketing Cloud inside the Marketing Cloud. But the downside of that is that it's just not performant. So if you have a bit of a larger subscriber base, then look at your storage in Salesforce Service Cloud. It's going through. It's probably 3/4 of the storage is your email tracking results. So that's usually not a good thing. But I'm curious about the other options as well. If I have to turn someone on, please put it in the.
Yeah, what I see at our customers is obviously the manual extracts is used quite often, especially in the beginning. It's obviously very time consuming. Every time you need a new report, you need to do a manual extract again. But API development is definitely picking up. So I think at the moment I have 4 customers using the API, using Alteryx, which is one of the tools that we sell, that are able to use the APIs to get in the data and push that directly to Tableau to build those reports. And I think they mainly do it to Tableau, but it doesn't really matter where you push it to. You could push it to Power BI or to the database and then connect it to anything you like. I have heard that, so if you look at Datorama as some, well, maybe it's not really middleware, that they have a great way to publish directly to Tableau already, which also can be scheduled. But I haven't seen it used at customers.
Yeah, I think it's a new functionality. But I mean, I was also hoping that the connector has more kind of votes. But like you said, Datorama has a connector also to Marketing Cloud where you can get the data, and then you can also use that data, create reports, and also publish or get that to Tableau as well. But yeah, so currently, I think, I mean, at least in terms of votes, we did not get anything on the connector, but we could use Einstein Analytics as well as Datorama, depending on what level of data do you want from Marketing Cloud into either of these tools.
Kusha, I think it's a great time to switch over. We have a couple of points that you've got in here. When I figure out how to close this.
Kusha, your camera is a bit aimed a bit high.
It is okay, and I can't somehow see myself, so I have no clue how high or low. Is it better now, or
a little bit more, and then you're good?
How about it? How about now?
Perfect.
The same.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good enough.
Okay. Cool. So I mean, generally, before going into numbers, wanted to quickly kind of talk about that. We talk about data, we talk about analytics. What people say now, right, is that information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics really is the combustion engine. So we have a lot of data accumulating, but what's really important is to get insights from that data through analytics, whether visualization, data science, etc., and to be able to make decisions and make it actionable. I mean, these numbers are there from a report, but just to really say that what is the importance of data and analytics, and we've got a 94% of companies, enterprises really saying that data as well as analytics is really, really important for their growth, and companies realizing that they are accumulating data, but something needs to be done with that data to make it actionable. Similarly, currently in 2020 itself, 60% of the companies plan to increase their analytics spending, whether it's whatever the tool is, right? Whether it's Tableau, Einstein Analytics, whether it's Power BI, but really companies recognizing that they do need to increase and invest more in analytics and use that data that they have. And then we have another number, which is 47% of the analytics platforms are really cloud-based today. And this number has gone up from about 39% in 2018. But I mean, overall, it kind of stresses the importance of analytics and importance of data. And with that, I can kind of give you a very high overview on the analytics tool that are currently Salesforce related, given that there are acquisitions that have happened in the past. Now, before, I mean, 2 years back, we basically only had this Einstein Analytics, which is in the middle, right, which is more a CRM embedded analytics tool where you can get data from Salesforce, but you can also, there are some connectors and you can get data, and you can also upload Excel files, etc., and create dashboards. You can embed these dashboards within the CRM so the user can really look at the dashboards within the system without really having to go to a different platform, so to say. Now, then there were different acquisitions that Salesforce did. So on the right side now you see Datorama, what we were just earlier talking about. This was acquired by Salesforce, I think, in 2018. They call it as the marketing intelligence tool. It has a lot of connectors, very marketing specific. So there is a marketing cloud connector as well, and there are a lot of other connectors, whether it is Google or Adobe and Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. Of course, with those standard connectors, you also need to see what level of data is really coming in, and does it suit your purpose? Does it suit what you want to really look at? But then Datorama is that marketing tool with a lot of pre-built connectors. And then the third tool, which was again a big acquisition, right? Tableau. And I think when Doug did the polling or the voting, I was really looking at if we get all the tools in there, and for sure we had Tableau and Datorama, I think, in more votes, but Einstein Analytics was also in there. So some of you use, or at your clients really use these three tools. Tableau, of course, is, I think, a very popular tool, just like Power BI, etc. With you can kind of cater to a lot of use cases. So enterprise-wide analytics tool, which of course for us also is now a big focus because of the acquisition of Salesforce. But when it comes to Salesforce and when it comes to analytics, then we've really got these three tools: Tableau, Einstein Analytics, and Datorama. And Einstein Analytics is then, the Einstein, I think, is also a broader term, which also includes AI. But when it comes to visualization and Tableau, Datorama kind of tool, then it's really Einstein Analytics as the product. Yeah, so basically leading analytics tools that are available with Salesforce as such are these three then.
So Kusha, we were working for a while in Germany together on various different kind of project discussions that we've had. Certainly one of those things that you've been involved in is Datorama. I think one of the bigger challenges that we face often talking with clients is really, why do I need Datorama if I have the Tableaus of the world, if I have Einstein Analytics and something like that? What is the value of Datarama when I've already got all these powerful tools? Where does the add-in come from?
Yeah, I mean, the USP for Datarama as such is its harmonization capabilities. So if the client really has these multiple sources of data and wants to not just say visualize Marketing Cloud, but also wants to integrate that data with something from Google and something from Adobe, etc., and wants to create a single source of truth, then Datarama comes into the picture, because what it has some inbuilt data models, it has good connectors, but this harmonization features that exist in Datarama, if we have to replicate that in other tools, it's going to take a lot of manual effort with mapping, etc. So it's really built for marketing use cases, and that's where the USP comes in. Of course, it's very much possible that the client has a preferred tool of analytics and they're already using that, but it really then needs to be seen in terms of that use case, whether it makes sense to shift to Datarama. At one of our clients, interestingly, they were using Power BI and they moved to Datarama. I would not say more because of the harmonization capability, which I think is actually the main USP of Datarama, but with data ingestion, they were facing problems of getting that data into the Power BI with a lot of manual things that had to be done. And then data ingestion itself was taking quite some time, while in Datarama, it was set up so quickly that they wanted to shift away. And that's one example where, Datarama clearly kind of had an advantage over the other tool.
But that would be the case for any other generic BI tooling, I think. Wouldn't it?
It would, whether it's Power BI, whether it's Tableau, but then it depends on what the client was really integrating. I mean, in this case, they were integrating Audience Studio data, and they were facing issues, with Power BI data ingestion. So with Datarama, there was a connector, and it was very easily set up, and they moved away from Power BI to Datarama.
But maybe Martijn can also add to that. This is is more the type of data you're talking about, then more streaming or really large volumes of data. Is that what's making this a little bit harder for additional Power BI tooling?
So I don't know if Martin would add, but one thing I think is the connector. With Datarama, there was an easy connector to just ingest the data. With Power BI, that connector for Audience Studio was really missing, and that's why it was taking more time to really get that into maybe a database or something, and then getting it into Power BI.
That's what you see with Tableau as well. So Tableau obviously does have connectors directly to Salesforce Cloud, but that's basically the normal generic Salesforce. It doesn't have a connector to the Marketing Cloud. It does have a lot of connectors to things like Google Sheets or Google Analytics or Google AdWords, but there are also a lot of connectors missing. So technically, you're able to write your own using a Web Data Connector to connect to pretty much any API, but that would require custom work. So if I look at Tableau, I see it's more aimed at those enterprise databases. They pretty much are all supported. So if you look to Oracle or Microsoft or whatever, it's there. But there are so many different cloud services that Tableau doesn't have a connector for all of them. So I can imagine that Datarama might have very marketing specific ones already pre-built and available.
That's correct. Exactly. I mean, so yeah, the USP is both the standard connectors that are available for a lot of marketing sources and the harmonization capability that it has. So for this particular client that I was talking about, it was this former advantage that they saw, which was really this standard connector that existed and was very easy to get the data in.
So Martijn, I mean, it's a similar kind of question to you. Obviously, Tableau is your expertise area. So where are you seeing those discussions when we're comparing, let's say, Einstein Analytics with Tableau? What is the pitch to most clients of why you would choose one over the other?
depends on where you use the tool. So if you're using the analytics as a CRM user, so inside Salesforce, I think first choice would likely be Einstein. In theory, Tableau could also work because you can definitely embed Tableau visualizations inside your Salesforce environment. But if the primary use case of the user is working like inside the Salesforce environment, it's likely Einstein. If it's broader, so it uses Salesforce data, but he also has a lot of other tasks, and he's not necessarily working inside the Salesforce environment, it's likely Tableau because it can connect to pretty much anything and work outside of the Salesforce ecosystem. Also with non-CRM or marketing data. We also work for the Dutch Football Association, and we analyze the sprints or the amount of goals that fall within 10 seconds after a corner. So it's a more broader analytics use case for Tableau, I guess.
We got one question here from Adrian. Datarama, is it able to make that connection to Viva? So Viva being the life sciences add-on basically on top of the Salesforce platform. Kusha, have you got any experience with that?
I've not seen a Viva connector to Datarama. I mean, I'll have to check, but I'm not experienced for sure. But I've also not really seen from that list of connectors Viva in there. No, I've seen
So I think
a sales.
we have the standards from Datarama. You're able to actually connect through to Salesforce, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So I think that possibly also could then work.
Maybe.
In theory,
maybe.
Adrian.
I mean, even if there's no direct Viva connector, maybe that can work with the Salesforce connector. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So looking past the tools here, I mean, let's step into a couple of cases. So we have here, Martijn, you've got a case for us here about data-driven transformation. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so what you're looking at here is basically the blueprint model from Tableau. This is what we use to help organizations transition into a data-driven culture and the different steps needed to do that. So as you look at the screen, you'll see that on the outside you have that same circle that I mentioned earlier with the smarter remark. It's something that you continuously update. You discover new things. You govern, you deploy, evolve, and again you discover new things. So there's the circle going around, and then in the middle you see all the different parts that actually help you to adjust your organization to become data-driven. Because obviously we all like to make decisions based on data, but our capabilities might not be at that level yet. Obviously, I would love my CEO to have a look at an interactive dashboard, click around and find the insights he needs, but he might not know how to. So these are the steps that we take to make sure that the right skills are at the right people, and the right information is also shared within the organization.
Got a question here from the couch. Gonna call that one in, Videsh.
Hi, Videsh here. Great. Can you make it a bit more tangible? This is very much high level. Do you have some more tangible examples on how you use this with clients and how you actually put this in practice?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we do, so inside our organization, we have people called customer success managers. So their prime role is to make sure that customers are successful with the tools that we provide them. And what they do is they start with an interview based where they have to fill out a questionnaire where they think they are within their organization on their maturity levels when it comes to becoming data-driven. And based on the input that we get from that questionnaire, we actually start making advice on the different steps they can take to upskill or to increase the level. So one of the things that they might do is set up a training program, and the training program might either be internal or provided by external trainers to get them the technical skills to be able to answer those questions. But it might also be doctor sessions. So Doctor session for us is typically something that you have a specialist available on the work floor, and then anybody during the day can walk by with their data questions that they might have on how to solve things or how to look at their data. And another one might be building up a user community, kind of like the user group that you have right here, but then inside the organization where people can share once a month or less frequent or more frequent, depending on the organization, the things that they found within the data that they're using. And that can either be in the actual content or on how to represent the data in a more efficient way. So these are some examples of the things that we do where we help facilitate to make those things happen.
Thanks very much, Martijn. And stepping forward, maybe looking at the architecture you've put here.
Yeah, so I thought it might be useful to give you a brief overview of how Tableau works from an architectural point of view. And as you can see in the center, we have Tableau Desktop. Basically, that's something strange probably for you as a Salesforce user, that you have to install something on your desktop instead of everything being in the cloud. So this is the heart of where you start off as a creator, how we call them within the Tableau community. So they are able to connect to data, and the data can sit pretty much anywhere. It can be a database, it can be a flat file, it can be an API, it can be a cloud service like Google BigQuery or Amazon Redshift. So we connect and we can build those interactive dashboards within desktop. And if you look slightly above, you'll also see Tableau Prep Builder. And that's a tool that basically allows you to combine, clean, pivot, change the data to a structure that it's useful for visual analysis. And then if you look to the right of Tableau Desktop, you'll see you can share this with your colleagues. So anything that you've built on desktop can be shared with colleagues either on Tableau Server, which is on-premise, so within your own firewall, or Tableau Online, which is the cloud-hosted solution similar to what Salesforce offers. And then your colleagues can either log in using a web browser or they can use Tableau Mobile. And that's basically the most common setup that we see at customers. Some customers have different tooling in between the actual data that sits in an API and then it gets into Tableau. And more commonly, we use a tool like Alteryx to accommodate for that. So it's quite easy to connect with APIs and do ETL with it. Or if the budget is significantly lower, we use things like Python and Airflow to script those data manipulations.
And for those of us which are obviously used to the SaaS online world, when do you see clients going for server versus online, and what kind of percentages, or what kind of justification would you see for that?
So traditionally, I think the on-premise solution is still the most common thing that they choose. It depends a bit on the type of company. So if I look at organizations that are like web shops, they quickly go for Tableau Online. If they're startups, they go for Tableau Online. If you go for a bank, they'll likely go for Tableau Server because it's on-premise in the firewall with all sorts of security things. As a mix, I think for our client base at the moment, it's about 20-80. 20 online, 80 using server.
So server is still very heavily used in this scenario.
Yeah, it's also likely because those databases are all behind firewalls, and a database is one of the more common things to connect with, and it is technically possible to do that with Tableau Online. So there is a Tableau Bridge component that allows you to connect to your internal database. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we see a strong presence of Tableau Server still. Yeah. And
will Tableau count towards your API limits if you use it?
You mean the Salesforce API limits? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's still not everything Salesforce internal yet.
No.
And for Marketing Cloud, if you connect to Marketing Clouds, it would.
So there is no.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Would that be the SFTP option or API, or what do you see there?
So for Marketing Cloud, I think we have about 4 customers using the APIs, but then they use Alteryx to do that. So Alteryx is like a workflow system where you can set up your API connections, extract the data, and then push it into whatever you like. So that's using the API and then manual extracts to get the data in. SFTP, I'm not sure if I've seen that at a customer. Maybe it's used, but I might not be aware of it.
Sure. There's an SFTP connector in Tableau, or?
No, but you could connect to a shared drive if it's within the firewall, and then the SFTP would end up on the shared drive, so that would be no problem. So Tableau can pretty much connect to any flat file. So from that perspective, there's no problem.
Sure. Okay. So thanks for that. I think we've got now another case here where Kusha, you've got a bit of background on it which is focusing on actually Einstein analytics.
Yeah, I can talk about it. Not worked on this project, but yes. Basically, so this was a use case where our team and Accenture did a project with one of the clients, and the client was basically using Marketing Cloud as their internal communication tool. So really sending out emails to internal people or employees. And they were also using Google Analytics. And the key objective was that they wanted to understand not just what's the total sends or total opens of these emails, but really who is opening what, and for better personalization, for better targeting. So they wanted to optimize this internal communication that they had. And given that the data was in Marketing Cloud and they wanted to go to that level that they wanted to see who's clicking on what, reports would not have helped. So Einstein Analytics was then basically used in this project, wherein data came in from Google Analytics and Marketing Cloud into Einstein Analytics, and really then going granular rather compared to reports to really see, whether maybe there's a finance employee who's clicking on some emails that are not finance related at all, maybe supply chain related, etc., and really trying to understand what is the interest. And the objective then being that you do not want to bombard people with emails, but really increase engagement. How do you identify which users in what path, and trying to then increase that engagement by personalizing those emails that are being sent to the employees. Yes, so basically using the Marketing Cloud connector, which exists in Einstein Analytics, and using also, I think there was other external data along with Google Analytics. This data was then brought into Einstein Analytics and was then transformed really to build up dashboards that were relevant for them, tracking all web as well as email data.
Can you also push back that data towards Marketing Cloud from Einstein to really make it actionable, or is it just insights?
So we had this discussion with the same client for the retail side of the business, so the external facing customers, and they were going to try and use Einstein, but as a default, it's not something that you can easily do.
But is Datorama then more of a tool to push back those segments? Is that?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, you can export reports and get, again, it will be more Excel sheets rather than pushing it back to Salesforce environment. That's not what happens in Datorama. I mean, you can create reports of all the data that you've ingested. You can create that single source of marketing that you want to look at. But when it comes to pushing data, it's either you export it and you get reports, or you can basically transfer it now to Tableau with a new connection. But getting it back to Salesforce, no, that's not really where Datorama will help.
Okay, and Interaction Studio? I'm hoping for a tool that closes the loop, but
Interaction Studio solves everyone's problems, no matter what they are. You want a coffee? Interaction Studio. Great choice. I would say I think the question is really one of understanding the segment, Michiel, from that perspective, right? So when it comes to the audiences that you're generating in Einstein, you do have to some degree the ability to push certain things back to Salesforce. That is definitely a possibility. But when it comes to understanding and being able to report, I mean, Einstein, the Interaction Studio also doesn't have the in-depth kind of reporting abilities to be able to do much about it. It's really going to be one by one driven when it comes to actioning things rather than, okay, here's a segment, let's push it out. And that's because it's designed, the Interaction Studio 2.0 Evergage is really designed to be that kind of engagement layer, which is more real time. If you're looking for those segments, that's the idea of having your CDP, and that's where you're going to see 360 audiences play a bigger role.
A different way of thinking. I think from segment-based to a more interaction-based interaction.
Indeed.
Yeah. But what I'm having trouble with is understanding the because they're all big and expensive platforms, both Tableau, Datorama, Interaction Studio. So I'm still trying to figure out a bit where this is going and what the bigger picture is here. But that's not a question. That's more something I dream of.
Yeah, basically kind of having an easy process of activating, of using all these insights that you see, of making it actionable, really saying that target these people with these emails, automatically getting all that data back into Salesforce and using that insight. Yeah,
I think I have a question from the couch here. So back to Videsh.
Hi. Yeah, I think there's a couple of layers, right? So the first part of this conversation is how do you capture everything? And I think we have loads of options in terms of capturing and making sure you go into all the nitty gritty. But then the second part of it is then with most organizations, you usually see that there's loads of data around, there's loads of data in silos. How do you actually make it, how can you actually analyze it? That's a big part. But then how do you make it actionable? And I think with the last part, I think that's also one of your questions, Michiel. Making actionable, there's a couple of tools how that can help doing that. Interaction is one of them. But you can also look outside of the Salesforce ecosystem, and it generally depends on what the client has, what your end user has in terms of their tech stack. If you, for example, go look into BigQuery, which is also a very powerful tool to analyze, come to insights and push that out towards different tooling to really become an orchestrator of journeys, which is what this is actually about. I don't think that there's a straight answer to this, and I'm pretty sure that Douglas will have a viewpoint on that one. I really think that it depends on what your end user is working with from a tech perspective. You need to look at different layers. Do you have a layer to pull in all data and analyze everything? And then you have a layer to push it out and orchestrate. Yeah, so that's my 50 cents on this.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely worth in more than 50 cents in consulting dollars. So. No, I mean, I think it does. That's the clear distinction, and what you're going to see, I think, is as well that distinction clearly made on the Salesforce discussions when we're talking about CDP going forward. I mean, obviously, most of us, I guess, are aware of Evergage having those CDP aspects as part of it, as well as then theoretically competing with audience from Salesforce, which will be released next month. Those are designed for different reasons. One is really create that segment. How can I activate that segment? And on the other side, it's really about trying to do that real time directly, right? So you really have two kind of different pieces there trying to do different things. I think neither of those is designed to be a reporting tool as such, right? I think the value you get from a lot of these reporting tools is to say, okay, what can you understand? What can you pull out? What can you play with and toggle to be able to understand and find out interesting correlations between things potentially, so that when you're doing those kind of mass segmentation activities with your CDP, or whether you're going to the granular and doing that as a real-time action, I think that both of those tools have an interesting different place to play. But what you set up and what you configure is really going to be driven by the analytics insight that you're going to try and get out from whichever tools you're using for your analytics needs.
So again, more than 50 cents. Yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, currently then what we have is also some screenshots of the dashboards that were created in that project. And maybe Doug, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, so I also worked with the guys doing this here, and I think, you know, the idea is quite interesting to see what they were able to do. Looking at the different stages of those journeys from awareness, understanding, and action. But I think the most interesting thing was that they were able to have these kind of views here, and what you're looking at is not data based on marketing, but rather tied together from the marketing side as well as the web tracking side from Google Analytics at a granular individual level, then tied against the Salesforce CRM data that they had on employees. So I think that was quite a nice story to talk with clients about and to talk with them about when we were doing the scoping for this project.
Yeah, so I think ultimately, I mean, they were really interested in understanding who are the people and what are they clicking on, also web tracking, etc. And that's what they were able to even accomplish using Einstein Analytics.
Cool stuff. So we made sure we wanted to have some time here for thoughts, questions, answers. Is there any questions we've got from the audience that you'd like to have some thoughts on about what potentially our panelists here have to say, or some of their experiences that they could potentially provide some great insights for you? Are you looking to implement analytics in the next couple of months and want to really know what the right decision is for you? Now would be a great time to ask that question.
I think I can put the mic open for everyone. Let's see. I think I've blocked also Doug and Martijn Akusha from talking, but I think the platform doesn't allow me to open the mic really. But you can post your questions in the chat. I'm sorry, this is the first time we use this platform for web conferencing, so it's a bit we're a bit trying to get all the quirky details out of it. I have maybe a question for all of you. We're talking now about Marketing Cloud data. But usually data becomes interesting if you add dimensions, more data. So then just looking at Marketing Cloud as a source is maybe a bit narrow, and you want to connect it to other sources. And we've seen where you can connect to, but yeah, we're at the moment looking at scenarios where we also want to integrate clickstream data and all kinds of other marketing data, and we're looking at BigQuery to as the biggest source of all the data. And what's the strategy then? Do you plug in your BI tooling on that one source, or is it still better than to plug your BI tooling into every source and figure out the data modeling in your BI tool yourself?
Martijn, do you want to take that one?
I was just trying to find the unmute button. Yeah, so we see a lot of customers using BigQuery or whatever data warehouse that they might use, being Redshift or BigQuery or something else, as like a central repository of that data. I can imagine with clickstream data coming out of Google Analytics, Google BigQuery is be my go-to place, because it basically has an automatic push to BigQuery. So those customers that actually use the Marketing Cloud API to download the data from Marketing Cloud, they do combine that data with data from Google Analytics and from their other systems. I think if you look at the API limits, that I would probably store this in the data warehouse as well. And whether that's directly in BigQuery or in another database, I think that doesn't really matter. Depends on what's available inside your organization. But to make sure that you're not continuously hitting those API limits, saving it inside BigQuery and then doing the manipulations might make sense to me.
API limits, good one. What are the API limits in Marketing Cloud?
So the API limits are officially, you're limited to a certain amount of API calls every year under your, or every month under your contract. And now unofficially, as Videsh sitting behind me exactly knew what I was going to say, no one is tracking that. And I've never had a customer ever been asked the question, hey, are you doing too many API calls? So officially, you should comply with you should comply with your contract. Unofficially, it's not really a major concern. The concern you should have is twofold. Is one, rate limiting. So not how many API calls you make in the space of a day, for example, but rather that you make the same API call 8,000 times in 5 seconds. That's probably going to throw some issues, and that's the kind of thing you want to try and avoid potentially, especially when you're querying for large data sets. And secondly, an API availability side on Marketing Cloud. So APIs in Marketing Cloud sometimes randomly fail. You hit the same API again and it works 3 seconds later. And so I think there's always a need to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're kind of making sure that you've got a backup in case something fails. What happens if it fails? Do you make another attempt? Do you wait an hour? What do you do with that? That's a strong consideration for why APIs might not be a great thing for Marketing Cloud. But it is equally to what Martijn was mentioning. It is something that we are seeing more of, and it's stuff that we're recommending to clients as well to avoid the need of going through complex automations, FTP servers, moving CSV files, dealing with UTF-8 formatting issues. It's just use an API. It's designed for transferring data.
Okay, nice, thanks. More questions for in the chat? Or is this time for beers?
Yeah, so Videsh would like to know if Interaction Studio is a CDP or not, because I said it before that it is technically. Interaction Studio, which officially, as of 6 months ago, was called Evergage, was on the market as a CDP previously, and still contains all those features because, as we all know, Salesforce rebrands stuff and nothing changes. It is still Evergage. It is still the exact same tool that they previously had, and is still supporting those CDP features. From a marketing perspective, Salesforce is not pushing Interaction Studio, aka Evergage, as a CDP solution, and it is really focusing, in this case, on the Audiences 360. The reasoning behind that is not clear, but the clear messaging from Salesforce has been that Evergage was not purchased for the CDP features. So while for some clients it may be sufficient to go just with the Evergage solution and not worry about something like 360 Audiences, which is what they're pushing as their official CDP solution, it's not what Salesforce would be recommending. They would recommend you go with the Salesforce CDP, which doesn't exist yet, as Videsh is correctly telling me.
That's a probably, yeah. And what happened to Thunderhead? That's Interaction Studio.
Yeah,
I don't know.
so part of the reason that Interaction Studio was quite an expensive tool was because they had a licensing agreement to Thunderhead, whereby that was essentially paying Thunderhead for the tool, and it was then you were paying an additional benefit for having that inside of Marketing Cloud and integrated with Marketing Cloud. Thunderhead still exists. It's still a very good tool, and the customers which have signed those agreements for Thunderhead version of Interaction Studio, aka Interaction Studio 1.0, those customers will continue to have Interaction Studio as it was and as it is, but with no improvements. If you've got customers like that who would like to move to the newer features to Evergage, that's a discussion for the account executives.
And maybe also a question on, because we now have Einstein and Tableau. Tableau, I think, being the more mature and extensive tool. Do you know what's the strategy on that?
Kusha, I mean, your day-to-day is dealing with a few different tools there on the German side of things. How are your Salesforce counterparts reacting to that discussion?
I mean, generally, like it was discussed before, right? When it comes to more CRM use cases, where the user really needs to look at the CRM and needs visualizations in there. Of course, Tableau can also be integrated, but if you really want the user to be part of the workflow, etc., then Einstein Analytics is something that even Salesforce would then suggest, while Tableau is then a broader range of enterprise-wide analytics use cases, etc. But I think, I mean, Salesforce stance is also exactly the same. It's not that Tableau will completely replace Einstein Analytics. It's going to both exist as products, but really depending on the use case, one or the other will really be positioned.
I do see that the development teams are being integrated at the moment. So they might still be separate products, but they will start working more closely together than they are now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is a question that we've also asked Salesforce a lot of times, and whether, because initially when it happened, we were also very curious on what happens now. But yeah, that's currently the status is that, yeah, they will operate as independent product. But yes, like you said, they're also really aligning a lot more now.
Elizabeth, you've got a question here. These products, can you maybe just mention what exact products you're talking about?
Okay, I've added you as a presenter, Elizabeth, as a host as well, I see. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble. I was in the middle of typing. Hi.
Hey.
I was talking about Datorama and Interaction Studio, since I already know that Tableau is pretty popular beforehand. Sorry, I look like crazy.
All good. So I think Datorama is something we're seeing more and more questions around from the Accenture side. Interaction Studio definitely is one of those topics. I think that the main discussion around Interaction Studio is really one that is not so much I think about the licensing, to be honest. Interaction Studio, yes, is an expensive tool relatively, but the feature set behind it justifies it. The challenge, I think, is how do you use it and get the value out of it? Because definitely what we've seen is that some customers go with Interaction Studio, go with it with no real plan, beyond the first use case. They kind of go, yeah, let's figure out a use case and then we'll definitely use it. And actually, you need to really set up a kind of a whole team to make sure that whatever is being pushed to the website is aligned with your strategies, that the whole kind of customer journey is matching, so that you're not just, doing a pop-up on the website, but rather you're integrating the data from your CRM so that the pop-up makes sense, so that when they click the pop-up, that message correctly triggers the right information to go to a journey, for example, to be able to send out the right messaging. So it's really about having those people to be able to build that whole journey. And often that's a challenge that companies aren't looking at because all they see is cool features. And cool features are awesome, but it doesn't mean that stuff gets built just because it's cool.
More popular in specific industries, right? Like fintech and so forth, or finance rather.
So I think part of that is a function of size. Usually financial providers are often larger companies which have a large financial benefit. They're fighting for their dinner at the moment, obviously with a lot of newer contenders in the financial sector. So they're trying to reinvent themselves, and using the data that they have is definitely one of those things that they can look at. Largely speaking, we're seeing it also from things like automotive as well. We've certainly had interest from it, telecoms. But I mean, if you look at the size of those companies, again, the budgets are there to justify the spend on it.
Okay. Cool. And while I'm still here, I know you were explaining a lot about the API integration and so forth with data getting transferred from Marketing Cloud. Is everything running more or less smoothly if you get it set up? Because I know when I was using Power BI, you had to be in a specific business unit, and not all of it was getting transferring data into Power BI appropriately, and so forth. So especially with Marketing Cloud software, it's probably much better, right?
So I'm not exactly sure the question.
If the API calls, so from getting data from Marketing Cloud, so especially Exact Target specifically speaking, into Datorama or Interaction Studio, is these data integration working pretty smoothly?
So for Datorama, Kusha, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but that's a click and point.
Yeah, it is a click and point for Datorama. Very easy.
Had any issues with that one?
No.
Good. It's a clear, solid answer, I'd say. Definitely APIs, like I mentioned, sometimes can be hit and miss. Usually they're pretty good. We haven't had too many issues with it in the last year. If you go back 3 or 4 years ago, yeah, I would have considered that an unstable solution.
So if you're thinking about getting Datorama certified, specifically speaking, is it worth it in the European field, in your opinion? With projects and so forth.
I mean, Kusha, you and I have been discussing this with a few different scenarios as well. Definitely. You're seeing it also demand from client side, Kusha?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would have expected more demand, but I think it will increase over time. And I also know that we do not have a lot of certified people in Datorama. So the flip side is it's not easy in terms of the entire path if you want to take it. There are 3 certifications online that you need to do, and then you need to attend a boot camp for a solution architect, and then take a virtual mockup. So it's a long, extensive path if you want to go the entire path and really become certified. But yes, I think lack resources, and the demand would be going up in coming months, years.
It's bringing value to customers. Do you have really positive use cases?
I mean, it's something that's really picking up now. So we're in discussion with clients here and there to see if we can start a project there, but it's not something, for example, like Tableau, where we see that a lot of clients are already using Tableau. So generally within this geography that I'm in, we've done one project. And we've been in conversation with here and there with other clients, but not done more projects yet. But this one project, yes, the client did see value. And I think, I mean, Doug can also, in Netherlands, there are also then questions around Datorama coming in from clients as well.
So we're in the middle of signing off on the first deal that our team will be delivering from a Datorama perspective. And a clear requirement was that we have certified. Everyone that is working on that will be certified. That was a prerequisite from the client. So I think it answers the question in that sense.
Yeah, okay. So is that something to add to my list of certifications that you advise?
It's been on my list for at least 6 months. It's a long list. So I think that Elizabeth, that does bring us to a great question, a great point. A couple of people already dropped off, but definitely any roles and offers that are open. Certainly, I can speak to a discussion that we're having with our team at the moment. We're looking at starting to hire into these kind of roles, particularly with a background in any of the newer areas, so experience with real-time interaction management, Datarama, analytics and marketing cloud, more on the technical focus, but we're also looking at hiring at least one person within the next 2 months for my team, given that my team is completely sold out at the moment.
If you're looking at roles, would this typically be more data scientist type of people you hire for this? Because you don't hire people probably with the certification already. There are not a lot.
So we would be looking people with at least some certifications from Salesforce area, but flexible. It's more the right person for the right roles. Ideally, at least something in Marketing Cloud. So probably be looking for Marketing Cloud consultant plus something else. But I would label it probably as a technical consultant role.
And I think, not really a data scientist role. That's not really needed.
Not data science. No.
What do you think, Martijn? Because you're used to hiring these type of people. Is that the right way to go?
Am I on mute or no?
You're good.
That's good. Yeah, I think we hire people not necessarily on the skills they already have, but on the potential that they have. So obviously, having experience with data, yes, that's a big pro. And showing that you have capabilities to learn the skills is a big benefit. But I think every consultant that I've hired in the last 5 years didn't have any Tableau experience before he joined us.
But there were people that could ask the right questions.
Either that, or they've been working with Excel, or they've shown in different ways that they are able to work with data. Yeah. And I think a background is from dentists to psychologists to people with an IT background. So it's very diverse.
Lies, then lies, and drilling holes.
Excellent stuff. Any other thoughts, comments? The roles open and anyone's looking to push or anything? Again, we've got a bit of a smaller crowd right now. Swiss Sense is still hiring, Viresh tells me.
Bugaboo is hiring, but more traditional roles?
Admin, junior admin, traditional marketing cloud roles.
So Swiss Sense, Bugaboo.
Yep.
Probably, and all the consultancies are hiring.
Probably as well. Who knows? So then, excellent stuff, guys. Thanks very much. Next meetup topics, suggestions. Anyone got any thoughts? Liz, you got something exciting to suggest there? Nope. Cool. Yeah, we're gonna figure out when the next meetup is. I think the next meetup, Michiel, we may still be virtual for the next meetup, and then maybe after that one we might see.
If my calculations are right, if my data is right, we'll be in a full lockdown in 2 weeks. If you just follow the trend and compare it to March. So that's, I think we'll
solid virtual session.
I think beginning next year, halfway next year, but next session, I think maybe in 1 or 2 months, because it's now easier to organize. So it's we don't have to cater the foods and arrange for a location and someone to sponsor. So it is easier. So I'd say 1 or 2 months we'll figure something out, Doug. It's it will take 1 or 2 beers, but then we'll have a date figured out.
Sounds good. Alrighty, guys. Thanks very much then. Thanks everyone for attending. We're going to go through the WhatsApp group. If anyone's interested to join the WhatsApp group we have for updates, exciting things. Elizabeth, we can see your phone. Excited you're joining. Fantastic stuff.
It's virtual since I can attend other meetings.
Yeah, it's a really practical group as well. You can really ask any questions, and not all, but it's Salesforce related questions are okay.
I'm not. No.
Yeah, and I'm still a bit in a lot of the Salesforce events Salesforce is organizing are a bit thin on content. It's too promotional. So the last week there was some one event that was a partner event on Marketing Cloud, and that was kind of interesting. A 2-day, 2 afternoon events, I believe. That was interesting, but it's a bit thin. So I'm looking forward to actual events again. Yeah, live events again.
Indeed.
And to be honest, the live event from Salesforce are also very
good to Vegas.
So but then you get to meet people. So that's doing a lot as well. Yeah.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, guys.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Have a good one, guys.
Already left.
Ciao, ciao.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.